Welcome to Drive Live with an Engineer. Today we are joined by Marj Issapour. Marj, also known as Marj, is joining us today from the USA, and she'll be telling us more about a career in the renewables industry, and we'll be looking at the opportunities there and also in education from an engineering perspective. Marj, where are you currently working at the moment?
So right now, I'm currently working at Farmingdale State College. It is one of the 64 campuses of State University of New York. We're located on Long Island, New York, and we are somewhere between the two major counties, geographically on Long Island, and we serve basically the regional kind of economy in terms of producing the workforce. In our college, we have a School of Engineering Technology, which I'm a faculty at the Electrical Engineering and Technology Department. I also am the Director of Renewable Energy and Sustainability Center at our campus. Hence, you'll see my background, that's a logo. And from that perspective, I oversee the development of many workforce training in the area of renewable that are outside of the college credit-bearing areas and can basically serve different demographic of the Long Island region. And I've also been recently involved with, so State University of New York has this initiative on creating and promoting programs, educational programs related to in energy, green buildings, and sustainability. And so from that perspective, I'm the recipient of one of the largest grants from the Clean Energy Workforce Development initiative. And I have started with a group of faculty. I oversee, the development of two really timely credit-bearing certificate programs for our college, students.
Tell us more about the opportunities in the renewables industry. I know you've got a slide there you might want to show us so that people can begin to get an idea of how vast that is.
Absolutely. So before I share this slide, I want to tell you that the areas that I've been involved in terms of the curriculum development are, the renewable energies that are very much growing, at least on Long Island in New York, and I'm sure it's really worldwide, right? So the two major industries that are moving really at a very nice speed is solar and wind. At the same time, there is a push, and I've been very involved with that in terms of with geothermal and of course energy efficiency measures, electrification. So if you really think about this, the future is to move away from fossil fuel industry, right? Move into the renewable as our energy sources, which is essentially feeds into our electrical grid. If the whole movement, the economy is going towards getting your energy from clean and renewable sources, then electrification makes sense, right? So then if you're driving an electric vehicle, you are not, polluting the environment. At the same time, your source is the electricity that comes from renewable. So having, for example, an electric car in a fossil fuel-based industry doesn't make much sense, right? So, but in the beginning, we need to focus on solar and wind development, right? Because once that's there and our electric sources are there, then we can talk more about electrification in terms of cars and using geothermal, which is a wonderful way of heating and cooling your system, except it kind of involves a heat pump which uses electricity, right? A little bit. So it all needs to come together. The focus right now is on development of solar industries. So we have on Long Island, and I think in US, and I'm not sure how things are done in Europe, but a lot of these are private industries, right? They're not government, backed companies, right? So it has evolved because people were interested because things are going that way. So what do we need to do from an engineering, or education perspective is to make sure that we use those opportunities to show our students in engineering in terms of applied learning. So good news is all practicing engineers and all students who are currently studying engineering will have opportunities in this new field. Why? Because the principle of engineering and the way things work hasn't changed. We're just getting new sources. But we need to be familiar with particular differences about how these systems operate and what may need to go into the design of them. This is what's evolving. So what I want to share with you is focus on wind. Now, why have I chosen wind for today as a focus? Is because New York State our governor has made a promise that a very huge amount of our energy is going to come from offshore wind, right? And that is something that hasn't been at all in our area. So our students are curious, population is curious. Is there a job for me in there, right? Is there a position for me? This study was done by NREL. Now, NREL is a National Renewable Energy Laboratory. It's one of the national laboratories supported primarily by Department of Energy and Government in US. So they do a lot of good work, a lot of studies. I recommend for students in US to actually take a look at NREL's website. They have done tremendous amount of research and study on all renewables, right? I just picked wind just because that I want to focus that because that's my focus these days, right? This is a beautiful picture. So nicely color coded, and it tells you all different expertise and all different fields that can get involved in wind. If you look, and again, my focus as an engineer is the second color code here. It's about this kind of a orangish, brickish look. It's 12%. So 12% of the workforce are engineers. So if you look at the course catalogs across the United States, you don't see many institutions that offer wind engineering, right? So what is wind engineering? Well, electrical engineers can work as wind engineers in the wind industry because the wind turbines have electrical, mechanical, and structural pieces that go into it, right? They also have things in manufacturing, right? So really all types of engineers. As far as engineers are concerned, this is it, right? And then there's 9% of wind technicians, right? So the program that I have recently worked on with a group of faculty in our school, and our college is the first one in the SUNY system, and I believe in Northeast that has a actually, that's not true in the Northeast because I believe that Bristol Community College has a wind technician program. But we have a 1-year certificate program. Anybody from high school or BOCES can walk in. Well, not quite walk in. You have to have some background, right? And interest, obviously. And they will learn the basics of a wind technician, how turbines operate and what to do with them. Now, those courses will also be utilized by our mechanical or electrical engineers, manufacturing and industrial engineers as technical electives. So you become a mechanical engineer with understanding of how wind turbines work.
I think that's really insightful. Thank you for bringing that information to our attention. Now, I'm really keen to then come back to you because ultimately this Drive Live with an Engineer is understanding different people's career paths and what got you to where you are today. Thinking of the students out there watching at the moment and watching on demand, what they need to be doing if they want to pursue a career like yours and the different options. So Marj, what really first made you think engineering? Why that to start with?
So I believe everybody, again, it's a belief system. Beliefs can be argued and so on. But for me, was the passion I had for mathematics, believe it or not. Not even physics or all sciences, although I was good at all of them. Physics, chemistry. Chemistry was my most favorite science out of all sciences. But math and calculus is what I was really good at. I'm not going to tell you it came easy because nothing comes easy. At some point in your life, we all learn everything because everything's easy. But if you start to focus in an area, things do get challenging, right? I love math, right? So I used to spend time figuring, calculus or even proofs in geometry back way back, like, in high school. I love to be working on proofs, looking at hypotheses, proofs, and trying to figure out ways I would do things. And then going back, to class the next day and seeing the solution unveiled by the teacher or the professor. Used to wake up in the middle of the night, crazy. Not everyone's like me, but figuring out the problem. I solved it, right? But then I would go back to sleep, and the next morning I'll wake up and I forgot. But look, and I just want to tell you that there is something about what inherently you are driven to, right? So mathematics for me, it was. When I started a career in engineering, believe it or not, and I've had, so with biology, I also loved biology, but chemistry was like my first favorite topic of the science. So I wanted it to make a difference, right? And I thought making a difference will be becoming a physician because I figured a physician can practice medicine everywhere in the world, right? And do things. So that was really my first thing when I thought about college, right? So I did start as a pre-med student with an engineering in mind as a career to fall back on in case I didn't get into medical school. Because in US, most medical schools, you have to have a bachelor's degree in another field and then you apply. So you don't get into medical school right away from high school, right? So I chose engineering because that was an easy thing. I said, oh, okay, so I can make this. Now, what kind of engineering? To me, electrical engineering lends itself to be closer and more heavily in mathematics than possibly mechanical engineering was, because I felt like mechanical engineering dealt with forces and so on, and it was more like a physics type thing, right? So I said, okay, medical school doesn't work out, I'll become an electrical engineer. So first year, everything's general. When we got to the second year and I took my first circuits course, I started getting more and more into it, to the point that by the time that I was third year in college, I actually never took organic chemistry because that was a requirement. At that point, I was so interested in what I was studying to be an engineer that I kind of said, nah, this is what I want to do because this is where I have the passion for. That's how things kind of evolved for me to become an engineer. And then for my graduate work, I went to Columbia University Engineering School, and I again want to thank Bell Laboratories for totally supporting that education, not a penny paid from my pocket for my grad work. And I went to one of the best school of engineering in US, probably even worldwide, because I was lucky enough to get hired by an employer who paid my grad school, tuition. And I worked in industry for a while, mainly telecom industry, moved from companies to companies. And at some point, I decided it was great, but I needed a change. And I don't know how. Honestly, I don't remember how becoming an educator came into my radar, but I transitioned into academia. And I've been there since as an educator and an engineer. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about my background and hopefully to encourage some young viewers and even not so young viewers who may be transitioning, thinking about, they're practicing engineers and they want to go into wind, or solar or geothermal. There's many opportunities out there.
We have got many other Drive Live engineer interviews available to watch on demand, whether you're looking at mechanical engineering, civil engineering, petrochemical engineering, medical engineering. There are many on the Drive Live with an Engineer playlist. You do go back and watch back at those. And we'll see you again next time.